A special session of the Texas legislature is underway right now in Austin. While the response to the Central Texas floods is a top priority, Republican Governor Greg Abbott has added redrawing the state's 38 congressional districts to the agenda. It's a key piece. That item came at the urging of President Trump and his team, who believe Republicans can add as many as 5 seats in next year's midterms. Texas Democrats, meanwhile, are vowing to fight the redistricting efforts. But as the minority party in both chambers, their options are pretty limited. In a letter to Governor Abbott yesterday, House Democrats said they refuse to engage in any other legislative work until after adequate flood relief and disaster mitigation legislation are passed. Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher of Texas. She's also chair of the Texas Democratic Congressional Delegation. So what are the tools that Texas Democrats have at their disposal right now to make it that at least flood legislation is dealt with before the more overtly political parts of this special session?
Well, thanks so much for having me this early, Allie. So glad to be with you this morning and so glad that you're talking about this hugely important issue. And, I didn't come out of the Texas legislature, but I have seen what our colleagues there are doing, and they're really trying to make sure that the session stays focused on the things that Texans care about, the things that matter to Texans. And flood relief is at the top of the list after the tragedy that is ongoing. People are grieving across our state and in my community at home in Houston, and that's what the legislature should be focused on. And it's important for us to, A, make sure that people know that this partisan political gerrymandering effort is underway, and B, make sure that the session stays focused on the things Texans actually care about. And I have not met a single Texan who is asking for the governor to have the GOP add 5 congressional seats in this special session. This isn't a request coming from Texans. This isn't a priority for Texans. This is a priority for President Trump. And Texans in the legislature are going to make sure that they know that, and the rest of us are going to do everything we can to help make sure to get the word out and make sure that our constituents know to talk to their Republican legislators and make sure they know this is not what they want them to be doing.
But I will also say, I don't think Republican legislators in Texas are all too thrilled about the idea that their districts could be changing less than 2 years out from election time. I mean, privately, is that what you hear? Do you hear a reluctance, despite the fact that this is what the White House wants?
Well, I'm certainly not hearing them say that they want to do this. And it's actually even closer. Our filing deadline, the filing opens in November. Yeah. It's almost August. So, I don't think that they want it. I'm certainly not hearing a push from anyone from Texas that this is what Texas should be doing right now, or this is what the Congress should be doing right now. This is coming from President Trump. And so, I did a town hall last night with one of our state representatives from my area. They haven't even seen the maps. The assumption in Austin is that that map is coming from Washington. And that is just so wrong. But there's something really important to know related to that, too, which is, we're talking about this as partisan gerrymandering. Yeah. And it is. But make no mistake, in Texas, Republican gerrymandering is racial gerrymandering, and it's illegal. And that's what we've seen time and again. The existing map that we're using is in litigation right now. And so it's really important that people understand that this effort is all about disenfranchising and taking away the voices of the minority Texans, the majority of whom vote for Democrats. And they have said, we are going to get rid of 5 Democratic seats. The president said it last week, and it's as simple as that. And so we need to understand that this is part of a much bigger effort. And they're starting in Texas, but who knows where they'll go from here. So it's really critically important that not just Texans are paying attention, but that everybody's paying attention.
I was going to say, we've seen Texas act as a sort of conservative incubator over the last several years. I mean, you and I have had many conversations about the abortion measures and restrictions that have passed in Texas and then sort of been exported to other states and mimicked there. What do you see in this special session that you could then hear about in Congress, whether it's months or years down the road? Are Republican colleagues already talking about some of the measures that are being taken up in this special session, for example?
Well, I think it's an excellent point that Texas has been, unfortunately, a laboratory for some very bad ideas, and they do get exported. And what we're seeing here is that there are a lot of things they've put on the call, but they have prioritized this congressional redistricting. Yeah. And I think that that's one of the first exports. Who knows what governor President Trump's going to call next? Say he just needs a few more seats here. He needs a few more seats there. So the implications of what's happening in Texas are huge. And that's why we can't let this happen without a fight. And Texas Democrats are fighting back in every way we can. You asked about the legislative options, but certainly we are rallying in our communities. I was at a rally on Saturday. There were tons of people that showed up there, that are showing up again this weekend, that are calling their representatives as this session has started and telling the Republican representatives, vote no. Because, you know, there are a lot of questions about what Democrats can do here. Yeah. But the bottom line is Republicans can vote against it. They can stop this from happening. And that's the question we should be asking. Why are they giving in? Why are they just giving our state over to Donald Trump and not representing Texans and their priorities?
I think that's a really interesting point. Plus, the onus is then on voters who, as these lines are changing, are going to have to regularly remind themselves, OK, which district am I in as the lines are being redrawn, held up in litigation, oftentimes dragging out that already lengthy process. It's really important. Democratic Congressman Lizzie Fletcher of Texas, thank you for coming on and talking about it with us.